And I'm not actually the person doing it, it's Jack.
Oh, surprise. Thanks for that, Matt.
That's all right.
Great little introduction, I love it. Oh, welcome back to another Thursday, my friends. It's just me tonight, actually. Matt is here temporarily, hanging out in the room, sticking his head in.
And I'll be saying goodbye as well. Bye. Good luck, man.
Thanks, man. Cheers. So yeah, this is actually going to be my first solo live meditation, which is kind of cool and kind of fun. So it will be like a little bit different this week than I think it has been in the past, because obviously I won't have anyone to be bouncing ideas off as we go. So it'll be fun and interesting to see what happens as we all continue to do this together. So tonight I'm going to be talking about an idea that has been really influential for me over the last few years, and that is the idea of balance. It's a very prominent theme in a lot of my studies. In Chinese medicine, it's a really core theme, so I kind of am exposed to it a lot. But it's also just an idea that I've played around with a lot in my own life, trying to find different forms of balance and just exploring it as a concept in general, trying to live a balanced life, eat a balanced diet, all kinds of things. But you know, we'll get into that in a few minutes, because it is Thursday, and as is traditional for these meditations so far, I'm going to start this off with just a silent, little silent meditation. I don't actually have a timer today, so I'm just going to count via my breath. So I just will invite you guys to sit with me in whatever way feels comfortable and good for you, whether that's incorporating some techniques that you've been trying, or perhaps just sitting and noticing if anything comes up, or anything else, in fact, that you might like to do, whether that's sitting or lying or whatever. Either way, we will, with all of that said, let's sit in meditation. I'll see you guys in a few minutes. And you can slowly come back into the room, only as fast as feels comfortable to do so. And join me as I start drinking this delicious cup of tea and have a little bit of a ramble about this idea of balance. So I think like the best way to kind of like getting a sense of the best way to start this off might actually just be to speak to like how I kind of first encountered this idea and what I understand balance to be. Because it's a weird thing, right? Like we kind of like throw the idea of balance around, like which kind of equates to like, things being in some state of equilibrium. Whether that's, weighing things up on a scale, literally, whether that's standing on one leg, being able to like hold yourself in certain positions, whether that's like a work-life balance, whether that's a balanced diet, whatever all of those things kind of mean, right? So my understanding, so I kind of like started encountering the idea of balance and properly trying to understand what it meant a few years ago, reading a book, and this book was talking about like one of the ideas that it presented was the idea of balance. And it kind of really struck me the way that it was presented, because the point that it was making, or at least what I got from it, was that balance is not a fixed state. Balance is not something that like just like that you get to and then it's there all the time. It's not like kind of it's not like balance in like life and practice is not like putting things on a scale or putting things on like two equally weighing things on either side of a seesaw and getting them to balance and stay there. Still, balance in life is a dynamic process, which means that it's constantly changing. It's less like balancing on a seesaw and less like making two scales sit level as it is like walking a tightrope. As you walk along a tightrope, you place one foot in front of the other, and in order to stay on the tightrope, in order to maintain your balance, you need to keep moving, and particularly you need to keep moving forward and swaying from side to side. And so balance is this flowing movement or this flowing motion that you can take through life or through various different things. And the way that I kind of understand this is that as we try and like create if you were to try and create like a sense of balance in your life, that would be less about like putting fixed structures in place, some to be like supportive, but more about like adapting and being able to flow with the needs of life and your needs as they change from moment to moment and day to day. And one of the like models that I really love with this is the I apologize for any like kind of stopping and starting that's happening as well. I'm not sure what's been going on with my phone lately, but it doesn't seem to like maintaining strong connections for extended periods of time, which is a shame. But we'll just work with it. But yes, so yin and yang. These two, this circle with one half white and one half black, one representing the yang side representing, or the white side representing masculinity, light, expansion, outwards and upwards movement, heat and warmth, and those kinds of things. In traditional, like the traditional like meaning of that in Chinese medicine and Chinese culture, as far as I'm aware, is the sunny. Yang means the sunny side of the hill. And yin, on the other side, conversely, means the shady side of the hill. The yin represents things like darkness, rest, quiet, silence, inwards and downwards movement, softness, yeah, those, and is traditionally feminine. So there are four main principles that govern this relationship or interaction between these two primordial forces, is the way I think is the best way of kind of looking at or describing them. So the first one is their fundamental opposition, which means that basically they are always working, they are like always like kind of pushing and pulling against each other. They work, they're like opposite sides of the pole, basically. So one, you can think of one as positive and one as negative, if you like, just like on a magnet. And it's the interplay between those that allow, just like in a magnet, how the positive and negative poles on a magnet generate a magnetic field. So too does that do yin and yang, and the interplay between them, their fundamental opposition, and they will empower movement to happen. Similarly, in that, just repeating that quickly, if one is in this interplay, this fundamental opposition of yin and yang, if one is dominant over the other, then the other falls into a state of disease, and that's how that's a lot of what happens when things fall out of harmony and we end up with diseased states in the body, is a lack of harmony, a lack of balance between various different components. The second principle is the principle of interdependence. So yin and yang are mutually dependent upon one another. So one cannot exist without the other, just as you can't have daytime without nighttime, just as you can't have one of them, like just as like light can't shine without casting a shadow. They are both necessary for one another. And this is also like sometimes like traditionally referred to as, so the yin protects, the yin moves inwards to protect the yang, and the yang moves outwards to support the yin. So while one expands and moves outwards, the other protects and holds like a base for it. And while the other shrinks and moves inwards, the other like supports and provides the space within it for it to do so as well. Yeah, if anyone has any questions or comments, by the way, you're welcome to throw them in as well. Recapping quickly, that's basic principles of balance of yin and yang is opposition, they're two different poles, and interdependence. They require one another. You can't have positive without negative, you can't have day without night. The third one is mutual consumption, which is that as yang moves, it consumes yin, and as yin moves, it also consumes yang. This one is a little bit more like abstract, but the way I like to think about this is, as you get up and go out throughout the day, you consume the energy that you have restored overnight. At the end of the day, when you go to bed, you all of the like experiences that you've had throughout the day and all of the fatigue that you've generated is then consumed in the process of converting back to energy. So one is kind of transformed almost into the other as well, which is the fourth principle as well, is that they do transform into one another. Just as when, like at midnight, it starts to become daytime again, and at midnight and at midday, we start to move back towards nighttime. And this just creates that, and so this just moves in this cycle, and these things are always in balance. And one of the ways I guess I like to look at this in life, and in my life anyway, is that for all of the time that I spend like out and doing things in the world, I also need, in order to be healthy and feel good, to have a proportionate amount of time. That's not always equal, by the way, and I think this is probably an important part to address in a moment, but I need a proportionate amount of time to rest and recuperate in order to continue to do those kinds of things. Just like overworking, if I was to just like overwork and never give myself any downtime or never sleep, I would burn out pretty quickly. Similarly, if I spent all day, every day in bed, I would very quickly start to deteriorate, and I would not get anywhere. And I think so like an important part of this is that balance is not equality. As in my understanding at least, balance does not necessarily mean that things are equal in the sense that we often understand things to be equal. So like balance for one person might be, I don't know, for 6 hours of sleep a night and 18 hours of sleep, 18 hours of activity and doing things in the world throughout the day, maybe interspersed with like little moments of rest or whatever. And for another person, it might be like 8 or 9 hours of sleep. And then, the similarly. And like even in that, like talking about those like little differences there, that's actually just a really, I think, probably like a pretty reasonable example that we don't spend an equal amount of time sleeping as we do out and doing things. They're not, but we do strike a balance between them. We do strike a balance between the amount of rest that we have and the amount of time we spend doing things. And this is different for everybody. It also changes based on the day, based on the various other factors of things going on in our lives, and all kinds of different things, really. One of the other kind of like components I like to throw in here is this idea of a work-life balance, which is actually not one I'm personally particularly fond of. I think there's a little bit more nuance, a little bit more complexity. I prefer to think of it as just in terms of a life balance and look at it through the various different components of my life, because I would like to have balance in more areas than just work and everything else. So I like to look at it in terms of like, how am I balancing my physical health? How am I balancing my physical health and well-being? How am I balancing my emotional health and well-being? How am I balancing my drive and my desire to be out and achieving things in the world? How am I balancing my ability to organize and like structure things around me, and also to just like receive and feel good and feel loved in general? How am I balancing my contribution? How am I balancing my my social life? How balanced is that? How is my balance in my mental and educational pursuits? And how is my balance in my spiritual life, or like my spiritual practices, if I have them? And that can be like anything, by the way. Those are the basic, I guess, like areas that I try and look at and try and meet every day in order to have a balanced life, as opposed to a work-life balance. I prefer to have those things a bit more integrated than work and everything else. Yes. The reason, what I'm trying to get at, and the reason that I think that balance is an important concept to be aware of, and why it's worth thinking about, and why it's worth cultivating in our lives, is because when we're in balance, we have a greater sense of harmony within ourselves. And if we have a greater sense of harmony within ourselves, we have a greater sense, then we experience more harmony with the people around us, I mean, with our environment, and ultimately with like all of life in general. This facilitates greater degrees of ease, greater degrees of grace, and greater degrees of flow to be present in our lives. And I haven't really met anybody who doesn't like things to be easy, who doesn't like to feel graceful and to receive like some degree of grace, and who doesn't like to experience a certain degree of flow, at least at certain points throughout their day. or throughout their lives. Like if things are working well and things are moving well, then that generally seems to like make people feel pretty good, at least in my experience. And yeah, so one of the ways that I found that is balance. What it is trying to is just working on balancing things and recognizing that if something is feeling hard or something is feeling just difficult in general, hard, difficult, unpleasant, uncomfortable, taxing, if I'm finding something that is like draining me more than it perhaps normally does, especially if it's something I do regularly, then that kind of just is symptomatic to me. I just look at that as a symptom of a need for like addressing some other parts to bring that balance back and restore that like kind of like level of equilibrium where where ease and flow can be present in my life. I'm just going to quickly check the chat because I'm not 100% sure if I have a whole lot else to say. If anyone has, I'm going to quickly have a sip of tea, but I've actually had kind of covered pretty quickly, I realize, everything that I wanted to cover tonight, which is kind of great actually, because that means we have a bit more time potentially to do a bit longer of a guided meditation. But I'm just going to invite anyone who's watching to just chuck any like comments or questions that you might have down below while I drink my tea and just wet my throat, bring a little bit of balance back to my body in that sense, from all of the moisture I've been putting out, getting a little bit back in. And I hope you guys are finding this interesting. I'd also love to know if anyone has any comments or feedback from any of the sessions that we've done so far. These have been a really, really enjoyable process. It's been really interesting as a learning process, but also just like integrating another part of one of the things I love into this workplace that I also love. Those things don't have to be separate either. But yes, without further ado, I have waffled on for quite a while now. And it is a Thursday night, and I do have promised a guided meditation. So for anyone watching, I will invite you to just perhaps think about getting nice and comfortable, perhaps making some little adjustments in order to make sure that you are extra comfortable for the next few minutes. Whether that be lying down or standing up or sitting down, in fact. And perhaps begin to close down your eyes and invite your attention inwards. You might like to notice your breath, just becoming aware of the in and out, that effortlessly maybe you'd like to relax your face and eyebrows. Maybe you can let go of any tension in your shoulders or hands or arms. Perhaps you can relax your abdominal grip. You might feel your legs grow heavy. And just become aware of the points of contact between yourself and whatever you find yourself sitting on. And just continue to draw your attention inwards. Sink slowly and softly into the space inside. That's right. And just notice now. Notice the physical weight and presence of your body. Notice the sensations that are alive for you in this moment. Can you feel any subtle movements in the air? Your clothing wrapping around your skin. What can you hear? And gently let go of all your sensations as you just continue to sink softly and slowly into the space inside. That's right. And just using whatever senses now feel most comfortable and easy for you. Imagine or feel or hear a glowing red root growing down from the base of your spine. See or feel or hear this root twisting down through the floor, moving through the earth, twisting and winding and breaking all the way down. Slow, inexorable downward movement that connects you all the way down to the molten core of the planet below us. Feeling your connection to the earth, the primordial essence of yin. Feeling its solidness, how still and stable it feels. Feel the gravity of the earth as it keeps you unfailing, unyielding, strong solid and supportive. And bring your attention upwards now. Notice the top of your head and feel or see or hear as though a hook of light, a giant golden shaft of brilliant light extends upwards from the top of your crown. And witness as this light extends upwards through the roof, through the atmosphere, up and out into space. A brilliant shaft of light, connecting you upwards into infinity. To the expansive heavens above. Feel this light connecting you to all the stars and all the light in the universe. The primal yang essence of existence. Open and expansive and vast. And notice how, in this space between, you can represent how, just as there is solidness and expansiveness all around us, so too is there solidness and expansiveness present within you. Bring your awareness to your body and to all the contrasting spaces. Scan through your body and notice the points where solidness becomes openness. How on your face there is a solidness, a form to the structure of your face, and there is also openness, the openness of your nose, of your mouth, how there can be the openness of your eyes, of your pores, of your ears. Scan through your body and just notice how anywhere there feels to be open space, that space is contained by some form, and how everywhere there feels to be some form, this is simultaneously surrounded and filled by space. Tiny pieces of form with immense expansive space between them. Even on the tiniest microscopic level, there is balance of solid and open, of still and moving, of yin and yang. And just as this balance is present throughout your being, all throughout your physical form, so too can you experience balance ever more easily and effortlessly in all the areas of your life. Slowly bring your attention back up to your body now. Come back to your body and feel yourself sitting in the room. Slowly start to notice and wriggle your fingers and toes as you gently start to come back up into the waking world, bringing anything you've discovered with you only as fast as feels safe and comfortable to do so. Slowly coming all the way back up, where you can rejoin your evening and go about the rest of your night. Thanks heaps for joining me for this, guys. This has been really cool. It's a very interesting experience doing this on my own. Yeah, not having someone to bounce off is a very, very weird experience. But I hope that this has been interesting, or at the very least entertaining for you in some way, shape or form. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for watching if you're watching the replay. And yeah, I hope you have a fantastic evening, fantastic rest of your week and weekend, and that you just feel great and that you're continuing to do your meditation practice and it's continuing to get easier for you as you do it. Well, I'll be back here next Thursday, 7:30 again. I'm pretty sure Scott may or may not be with me next week. Hopefully I'll be able to rank with someone else in if he's not available. But either way, have a fantastic night, guys. Thank you so much. And I will see you next time.